Now we'll go ahead and introduce us. Okay.
Sure.
Well, hello guys. This is Jim Morgan. I'm with Caring Transitions, and we have Life's Copilot as a free resource for people to know anything and everything that you ever want to know about seniors. So, with that said, I wanted to introduce our speaker for today, Jennifer Johnson. And Jennifer does quite a couple different things that she gets involved in. So, what she has a company or a business called Music for the Generations, and it's sharing how she brings music to senior living and senior organizations. She also does a networking organization as well. So, Jennifer, I'm going to let you explain who you are and what you do, and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, I don't know. I think Jim already said that he can't hear it, but they're mowing outside my house there. So sorry about that if you hear it. I am Jennifer Johnson. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here tonight. Actually, I used to think that what I do is all separate, but it really all, I cannot believe they're out there making that much noise. But
I
it
really
all,
can't hear it, so
I
you're
know,
okay.
cannot believe that it's that noisy, but that's great. Um, so what I have always done, I've been a musician from, I don't even know, I sing. I know I sing, but I don't know when I started singing. I started singing. I have a couple memories of my first shows and stuff when I was back in elementary school. And music was just always part of my life. Um, have done things. Now, the funny thing is, I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. Well, I graduated high school in 82, but I never really liked the music that I grew up with. It was, I always reached back a little bit further than that. I went to the 30s, 40s, and that was about 20, whatever. Found out that a lot of seniors really like that. The senior market, that was their market at that time. Now I've been doing this for years. So my music has evolved, and um, I still do the Let Me Call You Sweetheart, but I also do the music that's a little bit. What blows my mind is now I'm the age, Jim, where I can honestly, there are people in some of these communities that are my age. So it scares me when I think, I mean, it's just kind of different, but the music that I grew up listening to, the 70s, 60s, 70s, 50s, whatever, they like that too. So I'm able to do all my favorites. But I always felt like I was connecting on a different level. And people who do music of any sort, um, I think we can all agree that there's something that happens. People may not be able to talk. They may not know their name. They may not say their name. They may not recognize you, but they hear a song, and it doesn't have to be an old, 20s, 30s, whatever. It can be a variety of eras and types of music. But music has always been a way I connected with people. It just, it opened up doors when I wasn't even 20 years old singing for groups of people back in Ohio when I started. And I remember singing for groups, and I mean, most of them had silver hair, and they were, and they loved what I did. Um, and they didn't, I think there might have been a little question, well, like, why is she singing that old song or whatever? But it was a connection thing. As I've grown older, I'm more, I get it better. The more the meanings of the songs. I mean, I've always loved the big band stuff, but it just was always a connecting thing. And during the week, I have an education degree. I thought I was going to be a teacher. I now have three grown children who were little. We have twin girls who have their own kids and everything. They're 30 and they just turned 33. Son's 36. But when I should have been or possibly was going to teach years ago, I had three little kids, and I did not want to teach a bunch of kids. I just didn't want to do it. I had my own three kids. So I ended up looking at other things. And for a couple of years, I actually traveled around with my music. But I'll tell you, you talk about physically exhausting. And I do play a little bit, but I, had to take all the sound equipment, and you don't show up for a job, you don't get paid, you don't, there's no residual income, there's nothing there. So I fell into the insurance world for a number of years and ended up that I didn't love insurance, but I love my clients a lot. And I started out with group health, long story, did everything that I could have done under the sun in the insurance world. And a music contact actually recruited me to become an insurance agent. Did that for a number of years, networked like crazy, went to the chambers, did all that stuff, was doing my music on the weekends. Basically, I had two different lives. I was doing my networking, and then on the weekends, I was a singer. And I did a lot of really cool stuff. I enjoyed my music so much. And I was really just kind of depressed because it's like, I love my clients, but I don't like insurance. I really just, and I'm not the people that can sell insurance and do a good job at it. I am forever in your gratitude toward you for doing a good job. I just met a lot of people who weren't real good at it and were more for the paycheck, and I understood that, but I was just, kind of sad. And at one point I met somebody, I had to make money. I mean, my music wasn't necessary. I didn't write music. I just, whatever. I just sang and I loved that. But to do physically do enough to make enough income, it was just going to be hard. And I had three little kids. I had a, wedding, a marriage and life and, anyway. So at one point I was talking to a marketing guy and he said, well, have you ever thought about being the singing insurance agent? And I said, no, but why not? And I started thinking about it. And that, I mean, he was so on. It was, and I always tell people, I remember then, that elevator pitch that you do, whether it's 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever it is. I started singing my elevator pitch, singing it. And I was doing a lot of networking, and I that was how I made my money in the insurance world. But anyway, I started getting more music jobs once I started singing my elevator pitch. And I'm not saying it like I was so fabulous, but I do think they were kind of intrigued in the creativity of it. And it just got the door open to some things that I hadn't had before. So I will say my music started to take off a little bit more. And I met some people that, looking back, it's like if I had not become the singing insurance agent, I don't know. Now, I didn't sing everything, but I sang my elevator pitch. And when we sat down for a consultation on insurance, I wasn't singing. I don't want people to think, yeah, she was, right, being this crazy woman. But I did start to realize that my music, the networking, it all was connected. Even I love networking with people, and, people I meet now, some of the people, and I'll tell you in a minute, but some of the people I'm connected with in my network and stuff, they say you connect people. You really do. You meet somebody and then you connect them with somebody else, and that could use their services. So 15 years ago, I started my own industry exclusive networking group, very similar to a BNI. We were part of another organization. We were not a BNI. I thought it would probably take off, but within a few years, we had 14 groups meeting every week, and this was before the pandemic. And I think the silliness of me being the singing insurance agent, I think, is what kind of kept it going, and people were lighthearted, and it was people were serious about their businesses. At this point, I'd left insurance because I start this networking thing, and they're paying to be in the networking. And the industry exclusive, if somebody doesn't know, there's one real estate agent, there's one mortgage person, there's one. But these were my friends that I had met in chamber meetings, and we started this thing, and it took off. Now, I will say the pandemic didn't help, but it did give us a time where we had to kind of evolve. We were meeting in person prior to that. And once that, the pandemic, everybody had to move online. That made us have to, kind of be a little creative. And everybody knows that I do both music and networking. Our network is called TTR Networking. It's called To the Rescue Networking, which years ago, when I was the insurance agent, I sold everything. I ended up selling Medicare supplements at the end to the senior market, which I love those people. It made perfect sense. That was kind of how I got out of it. But I used to always think when I was selling auto and home, people would call me. They didn't need insurance. They wanted to know if I knew a good plumber or did I know a good, real estate agent or whatever it was. And yeah, I did. But I always used to think Jennifer to the rescue again, but that kept me in there. I mean, they knew who I was, and yes, I was goofy with my music, but I never took my clients or my prospects or my referral partners, I never take their needs. And it's not silly. It's very serious stuff. I don't want it to, but I did take it very seriously that this was something that I could do. And I've been doing it now for 15 years. Now, I also became a gratitude consultant at the same time because I'd been using send out cards and everything. But the whole thing with the music for the generations is what started it. Now, actually, I don't know where you've got it spelled, but it's the play on my name. So it's Jennifer, but it's generations. So it's just kind of silly, but I don't know if you wanted all of that, but that really is how it all
That's kind of your
started.
background.
Yeah, that comes, yeah. And
So
I
when you do your singing in, where do you do that?
Well, so my music is not just only for seniors, but it's always been very targeted toward them because of the songs I like. So, like over the next couple days, I have, okay, so tomorrow I go to two different communities. One's an adult day center, and another one is I'm sorry, a independent living. On Thursday, I've got two jobs. They're not usually back to back. That day they are. Friday, I've got, and they usually, most of these communities have happy hours and they have, Thursday, I'm doing Sound of music from the show Sound of Music. Saturday morning, I go and do a fashion show up in Anderson and I'm the live entertainment. So that is geared toward, I do a lot of gospel music and I have gospel, some guys that sing gospel with me. So the music for the generation spans or covers everything from me alone to everything that I can offer. So it's not something I picked up yesterday and said, hey, I think I'll do this. It's like years of, doing. So I go variety of places. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So how do you get your clientele, or how do people find you for that those kind of things?
Well, I've been doing it a long time, for one thing. So it's funny, the meeting that I met you at, um, I think I've gone to maybe a handful of those meetings, but I've met so many people that not only have booked me from that, they don't even know if I can sing, but I think that there's such a need for music that now I do usually give people, if I'm prospecting, somebody or somebody reaches out and says, I hear, you do music, I usually send them a link to my music. So you know, they're not just taking it at my word or somebody referred them to me. I try to always, promote and give them something solid that they can see. But I do a lot of prospecting. So I use the senior guide, which is kind of funny. I used to use that solely just to send out a card every quarter. And it wasn't my business card, it was a greeting card, which is part of what I do. But the whole idea is just letting them know that I'm here to do something. And I have a couple different people that I can do duos with. A lot of what I do right now is by myself. When we met originally, I think it was the week, maybe it was but I had a vocal thing going on. I'm not even sure if I could speak to you. I can't even remember.
Yeah, I think you were able to speak okay. So yeah.
But it was so funny because I've had so many people say, well, if you're, because there's not people out there doing what I do. There's a lot of people who ask me, do you know anybody else who does music? So I sing, but I incorporate a lot of, I tell silly jokes. They usually, it's some silly thing. They get a little worried when I say I've got a joke to tell them because they're not sure if it's going to be safe. And I can't deliver jokes very well. I usually am laughing well before I ever get to the punchline. That's more, I think that's always my networking people have always told me that we always try to end on a high note, tell a joke at the end of the show, at the end of the meeting or something. And I'll be laughing so hard I can't even deliver the punchline. And that's more fun than sometimes than punchline. But the a lot of it is that I've been doing it a long time, really. But I'm not afraid to promote it or to put it out there. If somebody is looking for music, I know what I can do and what I can't. I used to do everything. I agreed to do everything. We used to do wedding receptions. We did everything. And I finally got to the point I said, now you really need to specialize or be very, and people like this fashion show on Saturday. Um, I mean, we've done a couple years of their music and now they know they trust us. They know the music I do. Um, but you just never know where these things are going to come from. So communities, day centers, anybody who's having an event for a senior, older group, I'm almost always going to tell people that that's the way I lean. Now I do some newer stuff. I'm kind of proud of myself. I do a couple out of the 90s and stuff, but not anything that I used to do things like old time rock and roll. And I had to when I sang with a band that did weddings almost every weekend. And I would be singing old time rock and roll and then have to turn around and sing Wind Beneath My Wings. And it was just that contrast of these, or, like twist and shout, anything that people can dance for hours to, that was what we were doing. But then he also wanted, the leader of the band wanted me to do the stuff that people slow dance to. That was
Right.
pretty tough on my voice. I am shocked that I hadn't had any nodule issues until just recently, but feeling much better now. So that's really how I do it, pretty much.
Okay. So when you're doing these a lot of times like at senior centers and stuff, is it something you work with like the entertainment coordinator there or their whatever, and then try to coordinate things? Do you have it like on standing things, or is it a one offs or?
Both, all three, everything. There are, if I look at my calendar, I know that every month on the third Friday, I do this community. On another Friday, I do another community. Some of them um, will book you a whole year at a time if they can. Then that works out wonderfully for my schedule. Um, there are, usually it's the activity person, but it can be the marketing person. It can be a combination. Um, and one-offs happen. Um, and I do whatever they ask usually. If it's, it's them, and usually if somebody books me for a couple events, I can usually, or on a regular basis, I can usually be a little more negotiable on the rate, just because I'm saying they're having me come back. It's kind of
Yeah.
so I like that. I don't know. There's been, and I'm not sure. There's been a couple movies lately that I've seen where there's people doing music in retirement communities, and it's almost kind of a joke. I mean, they're making it funny. It's part of the movie, it's funny. But I've seen, and I know some wonderful musicians that do this, that, are maybe in the earlier days, they were doing more of the traveling around, whatever. The entertainment at a lot of these communities, and I put myself in that, I feel like I'm very good at what I do. So they just appreciate it so much more than some of the alter, they I've been at so many communities where they will tell me what they think. And if somebody sits down and they've got a got a grimace on their face the whole time, I feel like I haven't done my job. If they sit down and they can smile at me for a couple minutes at some point, I feel like I've made a difference in their day. And um, to me, that's so I could be like a couple of weeks ago, I was down in Mooresville. And there was a couple, you probably didn't even want to know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. There were this couple, and they were sitting on this couch, and they were both just looking at me, and I thought, man, they are hard not, I don't know what to sing for them because and the rest of the group's getting into it, and they're all dancing and doing stuff, and this couple sitting on the couch. And I find out later, I always go around after I sing. I go around and I shake their hands and I thank them for letting, inviting me and being part of my evening, and thank you, and I hope I'll see you again, and that kind of thing. Well, I went around and I talked to both this husband and wife, and they were very kind, and they said, "Oh, we love that music," and I'm like, "Well, but I couldn't tell from your face." I find out from the activity director that this couple's like they're both 97 or something, and they were sitting there. They never got up and left. I mean, I somehow held their attention. And to me, the one activity lady said something about, earlier today, she said that the husband, she said he was really depressed and he was having a really bad day. And she said, I was so glad to see that he came out to the program, but that he was sitting there and he was enjoying it. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's enjoyment. But I was happy to hear that kind of stuff. And
Right.
so I don't know. I've done bigger venues. I sang for the Indy 500. I've done some really big events that I've loved. But there's something about that age group and that music that I just love. So
No, very good.
yeah.
So, well, that's very cool. So you're doing all these different places. Um, what do you what go into the activities directors to meet with them to set up the
A lot of it, and I guess I was gonna I was going to say this earlier, and I don't want to sound, but that part of a retirement community, a day center, whatever, tends to be they change often, right?
right
They and it's we
turnover
know.
is high.
I'm sorry.
The turnover is high.
The turnover is very high, and so that's one thing that I always have to realize. I was just emailing and texting a director earlier, somebody, and I said, well, I connected with whomever, and they said, well, we had to let her go. It's like so every time I start to get real set up with somebody, usually it's turnover. Now there are a few communities that have kept their those positions for a long time. They're very few and far between. But a lot of times though, if you're fortunate, if you're lucky enough, you'll get somebody has saved your information, and the next person coming in sees it. What I've been very frustrated with, and it's never the residents, but I was sharing this the other day with somebody. I said, what's hard for me is I get paid to do this. I love that, but it's not why I do it. When I'm done singing, then I go, oh, I get paid.
Yeah.
Now, usually I have to jump through hoops to get it. I mean, you have to be set up as a vendor. And just when I started years ago, I could go to a retirement community and they'd pay me out of their petty cash. They'd just hand me the money, but that doesn't happen like that anymore. So if somebody wants to do this kind of work, they really they have to reach out. They have to usually get set up as a vendor. I mean, you may have, done that with what you guys do. I don't know how but I usually have to present or complete a bunch of paperwork that they then take, and they make sure that I'm not on the 10 most wanted list or whatever. And, so it can be literally, in a lot of cases, it can be, uh, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months before I get paid. So you're not, I mean, you can make money and you can, but so you've got, not only do you have the high turnover, but then you've got to deal with, if you're not set up as a vendor, like I've had that happen a few times, then you have to be very patient and you have to be very, you have to keep track of all of that too. Okay, so I provided that paperwork 2 months ago and they've still not paid me. I don't, and then you go back and find out that the person that started the paperwork's no longer there, whatever,
Right.
so you've got to do that. But I think if you enjoy it, which is why I do it, um it literally, it sounds funny to say that, but it's kind of an out of body experience when it's really going well. And I doubt that anybody doing something, if you're not doing something that you get that kind of a out of body experience when you're doing it and it's working, whether you don't have to be a musician. I'm talking about anything you're doing. I think that's when you're doing something right, when you're doing it because you truly love what you're able to do for somebody.
Right.
And I'm not being weird. I'll pick people out, but I never make people do any solos or anything. I don't do that. But I'll tell a joke or I'll sing a song and I'll say, "Do you guys know how old that song really is? Or do you know who wrote that song?" And most of the time most of them do. And
Yeah.
I learned so much from that. And I've got a couple songs that I share that are not, somebody else shared them with me and the words are all crazy, but they're a different version of that song. And it's kind of, so yeah, I usually talk to the activities. If I can get the marketing directors, that's always good too. And I know the day that I met you, one of the things, from my networking world, I love to be able to invite people to be part of that. Not only I'm kind of silly and I bring the music with me, but I have this whole bunch of networking people that I try to connect people with. So if I can do that. Did I answer your question,
I
Jim?
think you did. I think you did real good. It's that's a lot. It sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like you're kind of finding out where you are where you need to be. Doing the things out there, getting you know bringing some sunshine to some people. So that makes it a lot of fun. So
So yeah, definitely. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So so how would someone get a hold of you?
Well, they can. So that's why I was saying Music for the Generations. If they go to Music for the Generations, and it's spelled JENNERATIONS. Yeah. I remember I put that out there one time on social media, and somebody said, "I hate it when people use their own name and they think it's really cute." And I was like, you know what? Who cares?
Yeah.
But it's the different element. I've been doing this forever. So yes, it's not spelled generations, it's spelled JE, but it's musicforthegenerations.com. If you go to that page, it'll take you to a page on my website that'll be all about my music. And it just, reach out I've got a couple different groups that I can put together and we have duos, but it's got samples. When you were asking me where it had the start and everything, I was thinking years ago, before there was the ability to send a link or something, you know, we've come so far. But I used to have to I still have little CD demo discs,
Right.
and I'll still give them to people. A lot of members of my communities, if they say, "Oh, I'd love to have your music," and there are people that do that, Jim. So I'm just, but there are people that have asked me, "Do you have a CD?" And I don't really sell them. I hand them, and there's 4 songs on it,
Right.
and I try to do that now. Not saying I wouldn't sell any, but right now, and I don't write music. I've been fortunate to work with some wonderful musicians. I've been very, very blessed to surround myself with really good people. So I can say I've down at the Indie Roof and I've done things. Uh, but I have learned that I don't want to teach music. I don't really want to give music lessons. I have had some, you didn't ask me this, but I've had in the senior world, I've had people ask me if I had a music therapy license and or accreditation or whatever, and
Right.
I just no, I don't, I don't, but I feel like everything I do is therapy in itself. So they can go to musicforthegenerations.com. On that page is my name, but Jennifer at To The Rescue IN is my email. And I'm sorry, Jennifer at totherescuein.com is my email. I don't know. Do you want me to give my phone number? I'm happy to do
It's
that.
up to you if you want to.
Well, 317-513-6823, and they can text me as well. But if you want to go to the rescue, all spelled out. So totherescuein.com is the website, and it shows the TTR networking world and the music for the generations and the gratitude and all of that. So I'm just happy that I'm getting opportunities to share. And it used to be I kind of all kept it all in its little compartment. It's like, okay, on the weekends I can sing. You know, I was still, when I was selling insurance, though, I was doing a lot of music.
Yeah.
There are communities and a lot of groups that I do a lot of music for, and I'm very, very blessed to have done it for years. And
Well, that's
so,
great. I mean, thank you for sharing with us. I will get this will be on our Facebook page, or Life Pilot Facebook
thank
page,
you.
and
Thank
we will get you all taken care of. So I
thank
will
you,
also
Jim.
send you a copy of this video. You can do however you want. So
Thank you.
thank you for
Thank you.
sharing with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All righty. Bye bye.
We'll see you.